Hi, my name is Mitchell Saylor and I'm going to discuss my process of painting a lighthouse at sunset. I am using oil paint, which is my favorite medium because of the blending effects that can be achieved and also the richness of the colors. I began with a canvas lightly toned with burnt sienna, and I used a mixture of ivory black, cobalt blue, and titanium white to create the underpainting. I used Hansa yellow light, cadmium yellow deep, and white to paint the sky and reflection of it in the ocean. I generally paint from the background to the foreground. As I work toward the top of the sunset, the color gets darker and bluer. I use a large soft filbert brush. There are touches of cobalt teal in the sky. I paint the darkness of the clouds with ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, and touches of ivory black and white. The darkness of the clouds will be relatively light compared to the darker tones I will use for the rocks. When painting, it is important to pay attention to the values of lightness and darkness so you can create a sense of form, depth, and light is communicated in your painting. I use cad, red light, alizarin crimson, and white for the vivid bright areas in the lower portions of the clouds being lit by the setting sun. Touches of orange and yellow are on the lower portion of the middle clouds, and more of these colors enter the clouds on the horizon. These clouds are furthest away, and so they are the smallest and lightest. I also keep the distant land a lighter grayish blue and carry this color into the lighthouse. Spreading around similar colors creates color harmony that produces a pleasing composition. This way the eye notices similar colors as it observes and travels around the painting. The building in front of the lighthouse is drawn with some strong downward sloping lines, which keeps it in proper perspective. If I had drawn it with horizontal lines, it would have ruined the illusion of going back in space. The one side of the building is lighter and pinker because the setting sun is lighting that plane of the building more. I add a variety of colors to the water and I paint it with horizontal strokes. I use a very dark green mixed with ultramarine blue and black with small touches of yellow for the trees. Though the brain sees the trees as green, it is good to see how the color is very dark. For the top of the lighthouse, I use black and alizarin crimson and have cadmium red, light, and orange in the light, with the brightest part in the middle. Softness to this brushwork helps convey the glow of the light. The grass around the lighthouse and in front of the trees is slightly warmer and greener than the trees behind it. Objects tend to be cooler in the distance and become warmer as they come forward. There are also some tanner colors in the grasses, and I use soft filbert brushes to build up the texture, though I mostly keep the surface smooth. I block in the darks in the foreground of rocks. In oil painting, it is typical to work from dark to light. I next block in medium and light values. I hold off on painting the details until I have the larger masses of color established. With this method, I can have an idea of the overall direction for the whole painting, and it prevents me from fussing over one area only to later learn that it is misplaced or off compared to the whole. I like to occasionally step back and observe my painting from a distance, which helps me see how the painting works as a whole. I may notice something I didn't see when painting up close. Then I go back and add details to the water and the lighthouse using a liner brush, which is also called a rigger. I am keeping my lines very thin. I also use a filbert brush. I have paint on the tip of the brush, and that allows me to paint fluid strokes. As I work toward more detail, my brushes get smaller. I use a variety of brushes for different colors so that the colors don't get muddy. There is a lot of fine line work and detailing when painting the windows. It's important to keep the lines thin and straight. It takes a lot of patience to develop all the fine detail work. I use walnut oil as a medium to create fluid lines and also use Gamsol, which is odorless mineral spirits, to clean my brushes and to help make fluid lines. I also use different brushes for different colors. I tend to have a brush for dark colors and a brush for light colors. This prevents colors from getting muddy. I mix a dark gray and use that color to add details to the rocks. There are a lot of crevices in the rocks, and I add many details to convey the overall texture of the rocks. I work stroke by stroke to build this up. It is fun to see the dark and light areas come together to create depth and bring the painting to life. I also add lighter and bluer grayish tones, which play nicely off of the orange tones of the rocks that come from the light of the setting sun. Blue and orange are complementary colors, which means they are colors that are opposite of each other on the color wheel, and they pop with contrast when they're next to each other. There are a variety of colors in the rocks, which adds richness to the painting. It is critical to pay attention to what is in the light and what is in the shadows and show the differentiation to convey form. I draw lines and use the filbert brush for broader areas of color. There is more softness and less detail in the shadow areas of the bottom portion of the painting. Details are lost in the shadows, so it is good to have less details there. Also, where the light does enter the shadow areas, it tends to not be as light as the highlights in the brightest areas of the painting. I sometimes use a wipeout tool, which is a tool you usually use with ceramics, but you can use it for painting, and you can carve out or carve away paint. I enjoy painting realistically because I love seeing the flat canvas transform into something that conveys depth, space, and form and comes to life. This piece makes me feel I am at the ocean observing the beautiful sunset in Lighthouse. On top of the dry dark base color, I add lighter tones and make sure they are not too light since they are in a shadowy area of the composition. Here is the finished painting. I really enjoyed painting this piece, and I hope you enjoyed watching. Thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe. Thank you. Have a great day.